Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Hi ma'am. Introducing, my name is Nurul Azranisi. So here I am as the second group member. I would like to tell you what is exactly understanding process. So understanding process is the process that we have to understand when we are learning discourse analysis. Considering that discourse analysis is the study of the way how to analyze language beyond the sentence. So here, understanding process is the way that we have to understand when we are going to analyze the sentence beyond the sentence itself. And understanding process in discourse analysis subject are divided into 6 parts. The first is about material process, the second is behavioral process and mental process, and there is verbal process, and there is relations process, and there will be existing process as the last process. And here I'm going to responsible for discussing what is exactly mental process. So mental process or the process of sensing, but it's not only the process of sensing, but it's also the process of how someone conveys about their own judgment, opinion, and even about their subjective value in the speech function itself. So mental process are divided into 3. The first one is perception, the second one is affection, and the third one is cognition. So, while discussing about the mental process, we also discussed about 2 terms. The first one is sensor, the second one is phenomenon. So, what is exactly sensor? Sensor is someone who senses, but the one that gets sensed, it's called as the phenomenon. So those 2 terms are always being discussed when we are discussing about what is exactly mental process itself. So when we are discussing about mental process are divided into 3. The first is perception. So what is perception? Perception is when all relates to hearing, viewing, and seeing. That's perception means. Next, the second is affection. So what is affection? Affection is when all relates to respond, like, and fear. That's what affection means in the mental process. Next, the third is cognition. So what is cognition? Cognition emphasizes for more thinking, more knowing, and more believing. So those parts that always being discussed when we discuss about the mental process itself. You can see from our PPT for the further information whether you got skeptical, even confused about what is exactly mental process. So I think that's all for my whole responsible discussing about mental process. Bye bye.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mozami Fekarin. I'm going to explain about material process. Material process is to express a verb that refers to the physical activity performed by participant. And material process is a process of doing physical action such as cook, eat, sweat, hit, jump, drink, cry, kick, and etc. Jadi material proses ini adalah untuk menyatakan sebuah kata kerja yang merujuk pada kegiatan fisik atau ragawi yang dilakukan oleh partisipan. Nah, material proses ini adalah proses melakukan tindakan fisik. Nah, seperti menyapu, memasak, memukul, menendang, dan lain-lain. There are 2 types of material process. The first one is doing material process. Doing material process is characterized with the presence of goal. It means that in that sentence there is a goal. For example, Chacha is cooking pizza. Chacha is actor, is cooking in here is process, and pizza is goal. The next one is happening material process. Happening material process is characterized by the absence of goal. For example, Chacha is cooking. That's it. Chacha is cooking. Chacha in here is actor, is cooking in here is process. So there is not a goal in that sentence. Another example of material process, for the first one is Rangga kicked the ball. Rangga in here is actor, kick is process, and the ball is goal. The next one, this is the passive sentence. The dog was kicked by Rangga. The dog in here as a goal, was kicked in here is process, and Rangga in here as actor. The next example, the boy eats meatball every night. The boy in here is actor, eats in here is a process, meatball in here is a goal, every night in here is core contents. I think that's all for my explanation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, I'm Ulfa Hikmah. Now I'm going to explain about behavioral processes. What is behavioral processes? Behavioral processes are processes of psychological and physiological process, like breathing, coughing, laughing, chatting, watching, dreaming, and etc. And this constitutes human behavior, including mental and verbal behavior, as an active version of verbal and mental process. Saying and sensing are construed as activity. Typically, the participant is conscious being, like the sensor, but the process functions are more like one of doing. The participant is called as behavior. Okay, after I explain about behavior processes, now I'm going to give some example about behavior processes. Nah, the first example is she laughed. Here, see as behavior and laughed as process behavior. And the other example is I'm listening to the radio. Nah, here I as behavior and I'm listening as process behavior, and to the radio is behavioral circumstance. Nah, after all of my explanation, I hope all of my explanation about behavioral processes can be useful for us. And thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Dinda Dwi Anggreni, and I'm going to explain about the last types of understanding process, which is about existence process. Okay, so for the first, before we discuss about it, we have to know what is existence itself. Okay, existence is the state of being alive or being real, something that exists, entity, and the state or fact of existing. For example, many people believe in the existence of God. Okay, and yeah, the noun existence can be used many different ways, but it always has to do with being alive or with simple being. You can talk about the survival of something as its existence, like your go-go club having lost so many members that its existence is in danger. The particular way you live is another meaning of existence. If you live a quiet, lonely life in the country, you could describe it as a solitary existence. And yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Verbal process. Verbal process contribute to the creation of narrative by making it possible to set up dialogic passages, and consists of share and process plus a secondary clues. Verbal process that we will easier to understand. There is a process of saying someone, something, or anything. For example, John, this sentence you can watch in the PowerPoint. John, as a sayer, as told or said, is the process. Him, them is as the receiver, and a question, a story, or his seek as a verbiage. Jadi, verbal process ini merupakan proses untuk mengungkapkan sesuatu atau mengatakan segala sesuatu. Prosesnya, contohnya dari John tadi. John sebagai sayer yang mengatakan. Lalu, as, told, and said ini adalah pemilihan katanya yang akan ia keluarkan. Pemilihan katanya yang akan ia keluarkan. Dan him or them adalah tujuannya. Kepada siapa ditujukan pembicaraan ini, verbal ini. Him as a receiver. Kepada siapa ditujukan. Dan terakhir, a question or a story or his seek is verbiage. Sebagai tambahan, sebagai bahan yang untuk diceritakan. Jadi, verbal proses ini merupakan proses untuk mengungkapkan segala sesuatu. Jadi prosesnya ini, dari proses sebelum pemilihan katanya, sebelum diungkapkan menjadi sebuah kalimat. Jadi cukup sekian, lebih kurang saya mohon maaf. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will explain about relational process. Haliday explained there are some relational process are attributive, in which case the first participant is labeled, identified, and what follows the verbal group identifier. So, relational process are process of being. Something is being said to be something else. There are three types of relational process in the clause, namely the first one is intensive. Intensive is establish a relationship of sameness between two entities, and the second is possessive. Possessive indicates that one identity owns another, and the third is circumstantial. Circumstantial is defines the entity in terms of location, time, and manner. There are always two participants in relational process, which consists of two main modes, attributive and identifying. For example, in intensive, attribute is Sarah is wise, and in identify, Sarah is the leader. The leader is Sarah. And then the second is possessive. In attribute, Peter has a piano, and identify, the piano is Peter's, or Peter's is the piano. And then the third is circumstantial. In attribute, the fire is on Tuesday, and in the identify, tomorrow is the 10th. The 10th is tomorrow. I think that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.